Hi everyone, I'm Melanie Blake and welcome to Girl Talk. In fact, the very first ever episode of Girl Talk. And tonight we have a Ruthless Women special. Now, Ruthless Women is set on a fictitious soap opera, but how fictitious is it? In order to find out the truth behind the storylines of this shocking blockbuster, I will be joined by not one, not two, but three soap legends who have lived and breathed what it's really like to be in the eye of the soap storm. So let's meet them and find out whether Ruthless Women is fact or fiction. Everybody knows her. And if there's anybody that has life as dramatic as Ruthless Women, and it is hard to have that tag, it is Danniella Westbrook. Welcome to Girl Talk.
Hello, I can't wait, I'm excited.
Now, crossing over from the square to the cobbles that everybody knows all over the world, it is, and I know that you won't mind this title because I give it to you with the breadth of work that you've done, not to do with anything else, the legend, Sherrie Hewson, star of Coronation Street and a million other soaps and shows. Welcome to the show, Sherrie.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
And now we cross over back to Albert Square for one of the shortest lived but most high impact actress and characters that ever caused trouble on that street. It is the fabulous Carol Harrison.
Hi everybody. It's so exciting to be doing this and with my fellow wonderful actresses over there as well.
So you're like the Garbo of soap. You don't say much, so we'll be interested to see.
I've not been known to say very much, but I think it's at the right time. You've encouraged me, and
well, we'll get it out of you. Yeah. Let's start off by saying, obviously, we've all read the book now, and the reviews are amazing, the chart position is fantastic and all the rest of it. But for me, what really counts the most is that reader reaction is so strong and that people keep saying, oh my God, is this what it's really like on a soap opera? Now, obviously, in all the press that I've done, I've talked about the fact that this is the 5% of the bad side of it, that there is 95% of good people, there are 95% of great working relationships, there are 95% of harmony, but it just takes 5% of bad apples to spoil the barrel, doesn't it? Mm. So do you think, as seasoned ladies of this genre, and I'll start with you, Sherrie, that the situations that the heroines of Ruthless Women find themselves in are true to life?
I mean, when people read this book, I think they'll be shocked. I think they'll think, really? Is that right? But I think us three are here to tell you that it's absolutely true. But probably even more so because in real life, it's actually worse. If you read in a book, you can put the book down, but when you're living it, believe me, it's absolutely right. And in the book, there are so many moments and you go, oh, shit. I remember that. I remember when that happened today. I remember when, and all three of us, I think, can actually agree that there are so many moments and you think this is too real. This is, oh my God. And it brings back a lot of memories for people who've been in that situation. But people out there that are going to read the book, when you read it, it is right. It is true. It absolutely happened. Every step of the way, right to the very end. And I think you'll both agree when you that is just, and it shocks you because you think, oh God, I was there. I lived that. And I'm now reading it and it really, and it takes you back. It brings a few memories back, which aren't always good memories, but it's such a raunchy book and such a exciting book to read. And I just think it has everything in it for everybody. So there is nothing missing, but it is very real.
Did you find it uncomfortable to read? Beverly Callard said famously that she felt sick when she was reading it because she felt it was everything she knew was going on but that she wasn't 100% able to prove.
It is, and funnily enough, if you relate it to other shows as well, not just soaps,
Yeah.
it actually it incorporates all television,
Yes.
all
Any
film.
drama.
Yeah, any dramas, comedies, you name it, it incorporates them all. And you can feel it. And, you know, I've fortunately worked all my life, and I could actually go, that one,
Yeah.
each show. And it isn't just the soaps.
No, it's set on a soap.
Well,
Could
we
be
live in.
any drama in the world. This just happens to be soap, but it is this drama world. And Carol, you've obviously worked, before you were in EastEnders, you had always worked, hadn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and
without a break. So in the book, we discuss obviously the soap actresses that are fired from their shows by a boss that doesn't like them, which happened to you, even though you were giving an amazing performance, and that then they can't get back on screen. So did you find that difficult to read?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it was very clear that I wasn't liked by the new person who came in. He didn't make any real bones about it. And I really felt it. It was really disturbing because I'd never had that before, really. You know, I mean, my other working life, I'd had fun and support, and I couldn't understand it. And I thought, God, what is this? Am I doing badly? But I wasn't. I was giving it my all, and the audiences were thinking it was great. But yeah, so it was very. But then it wasn't just me.
No.
Then it rolled to anybody. You know, it just get rid of a certain raft, a whole raft of people. And I was a commodity because they needed storyline, and then I was treated like crap.
But in Ruthless Women, one of the main themes is ageism, and your character suffered that on screen and off, didn't you? Because I remember watching you in the show at the time, and you were dynamite. And I remember the scripts, and I was probably in my 20s at the time, and you were at 42, and they had the DeMarco character that was having an affair with your character, who was maybe 20 years older than him, and he was calling her an old granny. I've seen your hair dye, you're a past it old, you should be grateful. And I remember as a viewer being really shocked that a woman would be portrayed like that. And I'm not trying to like blow smoke up you, but like, you're a really attractive woman, and you were stunning in the show. And like, what did that say to women at home?
I know it must have been, well, it was shocking for me, but I thought, oh God, this must be what happens when you get to over 40.
Right.
Because that's the way that character was being portrayed, and that's the way I was feeling on that set somehow. But I think it was definitely deliberate to get rid of that age group,
Yeah.
and just have young. And you had the older characters who couldn't be got rid of, and you know
Do you remember
years on, but the 40s,
Yeah.
you know, it wanted to be like eradicated, like suddenly you were past it, and it was very weird to me because I'd never experienced it, and it was very, very painful. And yes, in the show, in the book, was so much like my experience on the show, and so hurtful. And then you think, well, I'm being oversensitive. It's a character, it's a part. But it really, as you did, the way of what Sherrie said, the way that it affects you and your feelings about yourself and your confidence. And then after that, because in some ways I'd done so well on the soap that people had kind of, you know, believed who I was. It was so difficult to get any work after that because I was identified with that character, and I thought the world had come to an end. You know, everything that I'd identified with, and I thought, God, I'm on the scrap heap at 42.
And did it make you wish you'd never gone into it?
Well, it did. I mean, I needed to go into it at the time. Well, not at the time, but I needed work afterwards because I was bringing up my son, and I was so happy about going into it because I wanted to work, and I am an EastEnder.
And you went in at the wrong time. I mean, you came in on such a explosion at the wedding, and you had all the nation following what you were doing. And then what was it like to have, so obviously in Ruthless, the women's characters, the network, for anyone that hasn't read it yet, the network controller is a 60-year-old man, and he basically decides that all women that are over 40 are past it, mutton, and just starts to infiltrate that into their scripts and into their characters and try and do it. Did you feel that that was what they did to you?
Yes, I did. In some ways, it was cathartic for me to be reading it in the book and thinking, you know, that it's not just me somehow, because I identified with them. I felt that they were so real, the characters in Ruthless Women, that it felt like I had someone to go through it with. It was amazing, you know. And what I thought was really interesting was the way that you showed the execs and that world behind it, because I guess most people would think this is just about the stars, and it's all the stars, the difficult ones and the divas. You know, upstairs,
which is where I was, and that's where I thought so. And I think because the reason they compare it, I think, to The Devil Wears Prada is that was an insider. Now my job as your agent is to be that buffer zone, so they will talk to me terribly about you, and in order for me to not tell you, but for me to get you to do what they want you to do. I obviously have been all of your agents at different times in your careers. So I have been that go-between, that when you go upstairs in that office with that executive, where they do talk horrendously about the actress, you should be grateful, she's lucky, she should be glad to have the job, and so on and so forth. And our job is to not share that with you. Now, obviously, we are years after the fact, and we're now in a much different space, all of us as women, so we're able to talk about this honestly. And so when I wrote this book, and lots of you said to me, is it really like that? I didn't lie and say, no, it isn't, because it's the truth. That's how it is. And so, like Danniella, which of course you know that this is my favorite moment in my career, was the return of you as Samantha Mitchell in EastEnders. And I love taking on the establishment. Soaps are run by so many people that have so many attitudes about what they think is right versus what the audience is right. In Sherrie's case, which we'll come back to later, Brian Park, that came into the show, joked that he hadn't watched the show since the 60s. I mean, that's outrageous to give someone a job that doesn't even watch it. It tells you that you're already in for trouble before it starts. But over at Daniella's, obviously Danniella, I was a full-time agent at the time, and was very busy, and I hadn't seen or heard of Danniella in many years, since I'm a celeb, and I got a phone call out of the blue from a mutual contact saying Danniella Westbrook would like to meet you. And I was like, Danniella Westbrook wants to meet me? This is interesting. Danniella Westbrook, where is she nowadays? And I got a phone call saying she's in the country making jam, she's bored, like basically.
You're still in the country making jam.
But you've not been boring in between. And so we arranged to meet, didn't we? And we had some phone calls. And I said to you, and I said, so, you know, what do you want to do? And you said, I'm ready, I want to come back. And you said, what do you think I could do? And I said, let's get your old job back.
You did. You said to me, let's do what you do best. Let's bring Sam back. You need to finish her off. So she was made for you. It's your character. Go and put it for your ghost to rest, and you know, go and finish Sam off. Go back and round her off, and because if nothing else, it completes the journey, which it did. But you know, I can totally relate so much with that book, and I was very young when I got sacked and brought back and sacked, and then we had the big comeback, and then my last time there, I still had 3 weeks to do. And they just changed the script and then just told everyone I'd been sacked, and I hadn't. You know, and that stigma sticks, and you sit at home. So reading this book, I was like, wow, But I didn't realise just how traumatic it was at the time, because I just rolled with it. And plus also, you know, in my early days, I was using all the time. So it was anything to numb it, you know, and they were right to sack me back then.
And you've never disputed that. But
no. I was, you know, I just couldn't be trusted. No one could rely on Danniella Westbrook then. And that, you know, that was how it was.
Right.
So from that side, when I'm reading the book, I can see what some of the execs are saying.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you know, I have been brought back in that show. You got me that back.
And you were absolutely
hell for leather, and we loved it.
You were perfect.
And they got massive viewing figures.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they made their ITV free show. They even cost them £275,000 to make a commercial.
Yeah.
To run over 2 days.
And
like you were shocked as I.
You killed it. No, I wasn't shocked, because the thing is, in Ruthless, we have two characters, Stacey and Honey, both of which have drug addiction and suffer with that. And that's part of how their careers have derailed. And, you know, I know that none of us will understand the addiction that you battle your entire life.
No, of course.
And we respect you for the fact that you are here and that you fight every day, because we are blessed not to have that issue that you have to deal with. So I always have respect for you. I've always had respect for you. And when I saw you, and you know, you're so cheeky, you are just full of fire. And you know, I just thought, this girl, you know, and one of the themes again for the readers is it's about a comeback. So the soap is being rebooted. I know we all know the storyline, but Ruthless Women has been running for 39 years and it's about to be rebooted, and they decide that they're going to bring in a new soap bitch, a strong female character, and all the actresses, now I wouldn't call them has-been actresses, but in the book they're called has-been actresses, that are no longer working, that cast aside, are vying for this big return. And you and I had a little bit of a taste of that, because your role had been recast. And so I'd sent an email to the executive producers saying, guess who's back, ... or should it be Duff, Danniella Westbrook? And I got a reply straight away back from the executive producer going, that's interesting, ... Duff.
Great guy, Deirdre.
And I said, yeah, and she wants a job back. And he replied saying, interesting. So the race was on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on. And you know what? It's so interesting, because I think if you're in it for a long time or short time, anyone that captivates the public and becomes a name in their own right, as well as all of us have done, luckily, and gone on to do other things and chat shows and other stuff, and people know us as well as just that character. Because some people don't get that recognition; they just are known by their character.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard out there, and when you're writing about in the book about, you know, that there's this position and every actress wants it. Well, it was no different when they were going to bring back Peggy Mitchell, and we gunned for Barbara Windsor. We wanted Babs, you know, we wanted that role. We wanted it to be Barbara's. And Barbara had been out in the wilderness for a long time, doing fringe, doing theatre, still grafting, still acting like we all do. But if people don't see you on a show, they just think, you know, you're stuck in a box under the stairs somewhere.
That's
you know,
right.
so that was a huge thing that came to her later in life. So, and a huge weight to be put on shoulders, you know, to be a matriarch of a big show like that, coming back out of the wilderness, even though she had been working. So, you know, the pressure, as we all know, is always on to deliver. But if you get somebody upstairs and, you know, a company manager such like, that just doesn't take a shine to you, they will make it their you know, bone of contentment to get you out that show.
Yeah.
By hell or high water. And, you know, sometimes your numbers just up. Like, you got me back there. We did a great job, Deirdre. We were flying, we were doing well. But every time I go back, I would say within the Mitchell family, I'm what they said is a matriarch. So you've got Phil and Grant, Ronnie, Peggy, and we had Archie. Then you've got like Billy, Mitchell, me, and Roxy, what I would call buffers.
Yeah.
So we just sort of, we get some storylines, but we never are matriarchs. But we're there to buff the family out, and we all work together as a team. And I'm happy to be the buffer. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to be. But at the same time, when you're got the storylines and the pressure, and you've got the public side, and there's, you know, they're saying you've been sacked or this, and you know, you don't just go home like a sacking from a job.
No.
You know, and just you can think, you know, what am I going to do now? It's public. So when people say to me, what advice have you got about being an actor? I'm dying to be an actor. I say, read this book. Because if you've got thick skin and you're ready to rock and roll, and you think you can get down and do what it takes, at whatever age in life you decided to get into this industry, then read it.
Yeah.
Because this is how it rolls. This is the industry.
You took that fall.
I mean, they paid me for the episode I didn't end up doing, and they just like, and that was it. I just didn't get my schedule. They were like, "Oh, we're not doing it now."
Yeah.
So, what do you mean we're not doing it now? And at the time, the exec was on gardening leave, and the company manager stepped up and was like running everything. So I wasn't even properly dismissed or anything. It was like there was just no closure. That I was ready to go to work, and then suddenly I wasn't, and I wouldn't mind. But I turned down an offer. Well, an open offer on the table to go and do 3 years on another soap that I've been dying to do for years.
Yeah.
And I did it really for my loyalty and my love of EastEnders, my love of Barbara and the Mitchells,
Right.
and to round that story off and do it correctly.
Yeah.
I didn't certainly need the money. I just got to the final in the Big Brother house.
Yeah.
So I didn't need the money for once in my life.
No.
You know, so I did it like that. And then I think, wow, there is no loyalty in this industry when it comes down to work.
No.
Whatever work you put in. So yeah, women, as you get older, you realise you have to become ruthless. I didn't ever want to see McGrath because he couldn't come on the days we were there, so he stood him in somewhere else. And it was like, it was a shame. It was really actually, I thought it was actually like, it was just such a rush thing to do. And it was, I just felt I could have given it, we could have given it a bit better for Bar as an out, you know, on the show. But it looked great on screen, and that's all that really matters. But as an actor, personally, you want to give it what you can.
But my reference was they didn't explain why you didn't have those scenes. They just
They didn't tell me.
No, they didn't tell you. They just said, "Oh, Danniella Westbrook has been let go again," but that wasn't the case.
Well, I got a phone call from my son saying, "You've been sacked." I was like,
Right.
"What?" He's like, "It's all online. I don't do the Google thing. Barbara taught me that. Don't Google yourself. Your ego will kill you." She was right. You know, and he said, "Mum, you've been sacked." I was like, "Oh, no, I haven't. I'm off for 2 weeks, then I'm back in for the next 2 blocks."
Yeah.
It was like, "No, it's all over the papers. They're saying that, you know, you're out. You're gone. They've sacked you. You can't be relied upon." I was like, "What? I've just sat in a Big Brother house for 6 weeks with a bunch of crazy ass people, right, to bring my career back, right, and a nice paycheck. But, you know, I've sat in there. I wasn't at my wellest when I went into the house, to come out, to reboot myself, you know, and this is how I get treated. I don't even get a phone call or a letter or an email. I read it on the broadsheets."
Well, to bring Sherrie in here, your situation wasn't dissimilar with Brian Park, was it, at Coronation Street?
Yes, listening to Dannielle is an extraordinary thing, really, because it's so hard to listen to, Dannielle. That it really is so hard to listen to, because, I mean, very similar to you, I remember signing a year's contract in March, till the following March, and the Sun newspaper actually rang me up in, I think it was probably the end of March, and said, "I'm so sorry to hear you're leaving, Corrie." And I said, No, you're wrong. No, I've just signed a year's contract. And he went, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Has no one said? Oh my God, take no notice of what I've just said. I'm really sorry. Take no notice. Sorry. And put the phone down." And I remember thinking, well, that's a joke, isn't it? Because I've just signed a year's contract. And that's how I found out. And in fact, I did stay for more or less another year, I think, wasn't it, Mel?
Yeah, but you were in the thick of the show, weren't you?
Yeah, massive storylines. You know, I mean, in fact, they've just all been on television, those storylines.
They have, yeah.
But I mean, I've always been quite a goody two shoes. You know, I've always been really nice. I've always been jolly. I've always been easy to get on with. I've never been late. I know my life, you know. And I just thought, no, because what could I have done wrong?
When you had your meeting with Brian, what happened?
Well, actually, the weird thing is, it's a little story attached to it.
Yeah.
Was that I woke up one morning and I had these sort of dark clouds in this left eye, and didn't know what it was at all, and went to work, and I kept thinking, "Oh, what's happened to my eye?" And anyway, did a couple of scenes, and then I was rushed to hospital, and I had this whole eye lasered. In fact, I've got loads of holes in it now. I'd show you if I could, but I can't. So this eye is covered in holes. So what happened was I have an occlusion, and they at the hospital, they tried to get the blood and water out of my retina. So it didn't work. But what I had was an angiogram, which means I had eyes that size and I was orange. So I went back to the studio and they went, oh, come on, you've got to finish all your scenes. So I walk onto the set and Elizabeth Bradley, who played my mother, went, what? I was like, you look like an alien. And literally my eyes like that. And I was orange. I finished the scene, it came off and I was a little bit scared because I didn't know what happened to my eye. And they said, could you go and see Brian? I went, yeah, okay. So I jollied up to Brian, opened the door, and he went, don't sit down. And I said, oh, okay.
Disgusting.
Yeah. And I said, okay. And he just said, just to let you know, bear in mind this is March and I've just signed a year's contract, just to let you know that I've decided not to carry on with your character. Sorry, what? I've just signed a year's. Oh no, I know you have, and you'll finish it, but we're not going to carry on. Reg is gone, and we're not doing. And he said, I said, right, and he said, and don't do all the press stuff. It's all been done. All the press has been done.
Wow.
Stories
They
are
were
out.
already out there, didn't he? They're already out there.
And he said, when you go downstairs, there'll be press everywhere because they know. But don't speak to them because it's already been done.
Yeah.
And I went out, but I'll give you a little funny story to take away from this awful story. In my corner shop, we used to take the bread home because it would, waste. Yeah. So in my stupor, I went, unfortunately, to my shop and got my loaf of bread. Came out and the headline on was, Sherrie Hewson now on the bread line.
We laugh about that, but in Ruthless Women, Jake Monroe in the opening chapter basically picks two random classmates and decides they're going to be fired just because he feels like it.
Yeah.
That is basically what he did to you, isn't it?
Yeah, that scene, I've read that. In fact, I actually have to say, I've started to read it again. And I've read that scene so many times and thought, somebody must have been saying that about me.
Exactly. I felt the same. I'm sure we all did.
Instead of saying to me, look, Sherrie, we think, since Reg went, but then I get the biggest storylines for the next year that I could possibly have.
And you were amazing.
I mean, I had massive storylines over and over and over, and I was really longing to just have one when I was sitting in the Vic and drinking a G&T, but I had massive ones over and over and over, and they really worked me and worked me and worked me. And then I found out in the press, in the newspaper, that I was, being gone.
Before you were told officially?
I found out in the newspaper, yeah, it was in the press. And then I, rang up. I wasn't with you then. I wish I was, but I rang up my agent and said, because I was just prepared to go into another scene with another huge story, and seeing it in the paper. And they went, oh yeah, and then I found out that it was the truth. So I did get to go up to see the new guy taken over, and said, yeah, well, we've had lots of you. We've had lots of you, and so you're kind of done. We've done you, and we can't afford to keep you on because we can't afford to have a highly paid extra.
And you won them.
Yeah, you full on, and they needed to develop another story. I thought I'd developed the character of Louise, and she could go different places, especially with all they'd thrown at me. There was so much emotional baggage there. But that was it. We've done you.
You won them their first BAFTA.
Well, the storyline did, yeah.
You performed it. Yeah. You brought them their first BAFTA. And in this book, one of the opening lines, he's picking up the Golden Globes and BAFTAs, and they're going, this actress has won this. And he goes, I don't care.
That's exactly right.
You're an example of it there. Your storyline brought EastEnders its first BAFTA, and you were told that you were a glorified extra and you were fired. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't at the time, but if they carried on with me, because I had to, you know, they had to rest because I'd had enough of me. That's all they think of me as.
But he still used those words.
Yeah.
And they
Oh, yeah.
stick. That stigma sticks with you, because when you're in a low place, that's all that rings in your ears, and you do go home yourself, and you do search yourself, and you do look back at old work and think, could I have done better? Could I have given more? Did I do this? Was I not very giving? Was I, you know, so many certain things that you think of, and you just think, and it sort of makes you not want to be an actor anymore sometimes. But by that time, the whole country knows you. You can't just go and get a job in Asda's, because then people, you know, will be, you know, looking at you and taking pictures of you. So trust me, I've tried. When I was on the bread line, literally on the bread line, Sherrie, I tried to get a job at Aldi's and everything, and people were like, we can't really give you a job because you'll be a liability, because people will be coming and taking pictures of you. And I'm like, listen, without being rude, people get bored after a couple of days. They'll be used to it, and that's that. I have to earn money. Well, sorry, no, we can't give you a job. You know, and I tried everywhere to get work, and I just couldn't get a normal job or do anything. And it's like, you know, it was hard. But I think mentally, what it does to you mentally is, if you haven't got a thick skin, then do not be an actor.
No.
And if you haven't got thick skin, then definitely don't be an agent.
Yeah, well, I would like to say here that I think that Daniella's point there is one of the main things that I've said. So I've said in many interviews that I believe if you've ever played a service to a soap and millions, you've got to remember at the times that you girls were in soaps, half the country was watching them. We were a much smaller country than we are now. So half of the world that we lived in knew who you were. And if you entertained us, you know, for 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, I think there should be some sort of, like, just like they give out awards from the Palace for service to entertainment, there should be some sort of pension scheme that actors that in soaps get, that they're entitled to, because when you've signed that contract, your anonymity is gone forever. As you just explained, Danniella, you can't go and get a normal job. You can't go and do a normal thing. You've been paid X amount of money, and let's be realistic, soaps don't pay that much either. You still got to live in the real world. And then when you're cast aside, the whole world thinks it's got a right to criticize you, judge you, say, oh, what's happened to you? Didn't you used to be? I mean, where's the loyalty from the network?
Especially in this day and age where everybody, you know, has got freedom of speech, which is great, and everyone's entitled to an opinion. We've all got one. We can all be armchair judges, you know, and we sit at home, you know, and think certain things. But another thing is, they can say to you, you're gone, and they'll pay you the guaranteed X, but you might have a year there, but you're signed to them. So you have to go on rest money for the rest of the year, which is something on a BBC contract. At one point, it was 125 quid a week, which meant you're contracted by a big company, so you can't go and get a benefit because you're on, but you're on some little money. You can't go and do stories or press or anything because you're tied to them. But and also, when you're flying high, and you know when you're on your way up, because when you're flying high in a show, and I had a lot of bad press coming my way. I was a terrible cocaine addict. I was young. There was only 4 channels on the TV. We were hitting 28, 29 million viewers. Carol, you'll remember back in that time, you know, and they did so much to keep a lot of stories out of the press of me, and they did a great job. But when I found out the last time that someone had just got rid of me, like, it was just out there in the press. No one called me up then because I was no use anymore. You know, I mean, I'm number 57. I don't know what number you was, Carol, but when you go in the office upstairs, like you say in the book, all the cast pictures on the wall and their family creator, and I've got all their post-it notes and stuff on, and we all have a number. So it's like being a castle, really. Yeah. We all have a number of passed through. I'm number 57. I've always been number 57, like Heinz baked beans. But yeah, but you know, and that's all you really are, is that number. And what you know, it's not when you sign up to a soap, you sort of, it's very hard to work in anything else. You know, so you're not going to get onto like a downtown or you know, on some sort of, unless you're very, very lucky.
Yeah, because I had been in it as long as well. Yeah. I had, you know, I didn't have that sort of iconic image of being the EastEnders, but I was still so associated with it that it was hard to get other work afterwards, because I'd played so many different characters and different things, and comedy and drama and that. But after that, I was Tiffany's mum.
That's right.
You know, and yet I hadn't had years of a buffer of being in the soap either.
And so I think that again goes back to the theme of the book, that like men in power, certainly again in Ruthless Women, think they can just cast aside actresses with no thought for them as women or mothers or daughters or family people. That show business is ruthless. And that's what people keep saying about this book, is that they love reading it, but they would now hate to be in it. So knowing what you know, having done what you've done, and obviously I'm slightly different to you because I've been behind the scenes, behind you all, and I know what my answer is, and I'm going to tell you my answer first so that you don't have to guess. But like, would I do it all again? Yes, I would.
Would I do it all again? I most certainly would, and I will. I'm gonna.
Yeah. But I mean, all the toxicity, all the crap, the mesmerizing moment of the good bit, when it's great, it's like nothing else, is it?
Yeah. It's just like nothing else. There's nothing else that matches it.
But that's why you can't understand why you're being treated so badly. And I think what's really interesting and fascinating and wonderful about the book Ruthless Women is you think, oh, that's those actresses like Sherrie, Hewson and Carol Harrison and Danniella Westbrook, they must be ruthless and bitching with each other and all that. No, it's not about that.
No.
The ruthless people are not the actors.
That's right.
They are the people.
The actors are great.
You know,
the actors are great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jealousy in the place.
Yeah, I mean, we
upstairs.
used to know each other, meet up at things, and we have a laugh together, and you know, and we've done that over the years, haven't we? And we bitch about each other and go. It's the ruthless people are the ones who are the controlling everything and are careless with any feeling, and that's the ruthlessness and the horrendous story. That's about them. Really.
Do you think that there should be a duty of care to all soap actors that have been in shows, and that duty of care should extend beyond their end time? Because so many actors, when they're abandoned, they're just left. Like you said, Danniella, you heard about that last one in the press. Sherrie, you were fired and then told to walk out into a press wall. You know, Carol, you were told that you would basically become a glorified extra if they kept you on. It's like there was no one to support you afterwards, was there?
No.
Only management, only your agent, really, and family
Yeah.
members. But your family members don't know how to deal with that, and it's like, and your other cast members. I have to say, for me, it's slightly different because I deserved my sackings.
Yeah, not all of them.
Not the last one, because
No.
I wasn't sacked,
No,
so it wasn't a
right.
sacking. But before that, yeah, I did, because I was a liability to that program, and I did abuse the platform that I was on. So for me, it's slightly different. They had
We
no
love
choice
your
but to let me
honesty.
go.
We love your honesty about that, Danniella.
But it's honest though, you know, so you can't, you've got to be real with it and honest with it. Mine wasn't actually a decision that they really had to sit down and make. It was a necessity.
Yeah.
I had to go. It was liability to the show. And do you know what? If they had kept me on, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Do you really think that?
Yeah, I do 100% think that, because I'd have just been getting money, turning up and making it okay for me to use. They put a peer system in place later on. The last time I was back, and Jake Wood was my peer, luckily for me. They really did try. They learned a lot from me being there, because they really did try to look after each cast member. So we all got peer, all of a sudden everybody got peer members. I think it was Deirdre that put it into place, Deirdre Santa. And everybody got a cast member that was one that your family didn't really have much to do with. So it wasn't somebody you were playing against all the time. So you had somebody to run lines with, talk to, go to, any issues, someone that backed you up if you wanted to go upstairs and ask a question you felt a bit nervous about, someone to bounce it off as a safe place. Almost like a meeting within an anonymous meeting, really, but just for you and your peer. Yeah. And that, I think the BBC, that changed the game for me, because I had so much support.
Two of the characters in the book have been child actors, not on this show, but in child actors. And as child actors, they basically became groomed and they became subject to paedophiles because of the industry, entering that industry. They then develop problems in their adulthood, which affects their lives. Do you think that, because you spoke about that yourself, do you think that if those things hadn't have happened to you, do you think you maybe wouldn't have ended up with the addiction that you did?
I think if those things hadn't have happened to me, no, I don't think, I'm always going to have an addictive personality, because I have got that spiritual malady. Yeah. But, you know, at the same time, it played a big part in who I became. Yeah. You know, because I was governed and controlled from a very young age. And then, you know, actually going into work for the BBC saved my life, because the abuse stopped. and which was great. And I do know a lot of people that I went to school with that were abused alongside me that ended up, you know, in on drugs and in prostitution and brothels and doing other things to keep their habit, because they wasn't as lucky as me to get into a good job in a good, you know, in a good stable institution like the BBC and have management, proper management.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of that did go on. I don't think it goes on today as such. Not that I know, I'm too old, but you know, I mean, thank goodness it's awful, but you know, and it's traumatic. And you know, the only way I could deal with it was I used that for my acting. Some of the stuff that I went through, I used my emotions for that. I used it as my stubbornness. You know, I pulled on some of the emotional stuff that I went from. When I break my heart, I know I really break my heart, because I can pull from stuff that I've been really hurt.
Yeah.
So, and I think people get that. But you know, and do you know, the one thing that is being on the soap is we are a family. And it's a funny, because we're a family within a family, whether you're EastEnders, Corrie, whatever. When we all get to the soap halls, we all get together, we have a really good merry old time, and we are like one big family of soap actors, and it is lovely, but it's a hard industry. It's that when you sign into a soap, you sign your life over, and that stops you. You know, you miss out on all the things your kids are doing at school and stuff, because you're there 6 days a week, and you spend more time with those guys than you do at home.
Yeah. But it's interesting to hear you say that you feel that it saved your life, because obviously, as we've discovered over the last 10, 15 years with U-Tree and all the rest of it, so much abuse was endemic in show business. And we've discovered that now through, well, not we've discovered it. But
well, yeah, I've already gave my evidence a few years ago to U-Tree and mine, and I'm actually going through it now on social media with an ex of mine that's trying to bring me down. I've actually go to the police yesterday to get a restraining order and make a statement and stuff, because he's bringing up stuff from my past that's very damaging. It never happened to him. There's no mileage in it, and every time that happens, you know, I get recurring nightmares when it's there in the forefront, and then I get abuse on social media, name and shame. I have named the people to the relevant sources, to the police 4 years ago. Not every rape victim out there has to go and tell everybody who that person was. They deal with it in their own way, and I think there should be a certain amount of privacy for people when they've been through this abuse as well, because it's not just that. I have family members that they already have had enough stuff go on and have to go to work or school or whatever, being connected to me, that they've taken abuse. It's a knock-on effect, you know, and such like these paedophiles have family members that then their life gets it's not bad enough that they have a paedophile in their family, let alone to then have to, everybody in the whole country knows it. You know, it's not just us that get affected. There's so many people with a knock-on effect. It is awful.
But right now, whilst that's happening to you, again, that's another circle of the prophecy of the soap sign, that you're not in a soap, you're not currently employed by a soap.
No, I'm not employed at all.
You don't have an employment job, but you're fair game forever. So you're now again in the tabloids. You're attacked again by these revelations, and that comes back to the fact that you had soap fame. It's forever.
And that's what that also comes back to what you were saying of the support after you've left somewhere.
That's right. There should be a permanent liaison officer for the rest of your life when you've worked in a soap opera, forever. Yeah,
you're right, actually. I never thought of that, but I think it would be extremely helpful, because it doesn't matter if you're 18 and going into it, or you're 80.
80, it's the same thing. You've crossed over. Carol, you had this experience. You had a breakdown, didn't you, after EastEnders?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a very difficult time for me. I mean, you know, my relationship split up and everything, but also I didn't actually have an agent who, you know, a management that was there for me either, which is sometimes the truth as well. You know, not all agents like that. They like people being in a job and being in a soap, and they like it when there's the money. Don't want to, you know, don't want you to be out, because they, you know, they've got used to money.
But then they've got to work.
I feel totally abandoned, and I just didn't understand. You know, I thought I'd always got on with people. I thought, you know, people liked my work, people liked me. You know, I'm a loyal, generous person, I always thought, and an attractive person. It was questioning every single part of me.
And there was no one for you to turn to, and no one for you to talk to, and no one for you to get that advice from. And I think that brings us again, to the fact of like, soaps have a responsibility. Like, when we're all gone, you will be remembered. You will still be written about. You're part of the fabric of the history of these shows forever. They're in the archives. I mean, Sherrie, your marriage was tabloid fodder because of your soap icon status, even though you weren't in a soap at the time. And when you had to deal with your financial situations because of your marriage, because basically he had taken the money and done what he'd wanted to do and left you in a situation that you had no alternative but to try and get out of it in the best way that you possibly can, you went out of your way to try and keep that private, didn't you? And you went to a different area, you did it under a different name, you did everything you could, and someone at the office where you deal with your finances rang up the press on you, didn't they?
Yes, I did try to hide everything, as you would, and I learned. I'll tell you something now. I just go back slightly on what you were saying about duty of care. I always said when I was in the soap, well, all the soaps I've been in, when the young ones came in, I always said somebody should take care of these kids as they come in, because suddenly they're going to have fame and a lot of money, and they're not going to treat it well, and they're going to go balmy, and they're going to go out, or they're not. But what I'm saying is, I agree with you, Mel, that somebody right from the beginning all the way through should be the duty of care person, whoever it is, and just watch that person as they grow, knowing full well what happens to somebody on a soap when you think it's every day for a year, you know, and however, I mean, I was there 5 years, and you think somebody should be there going, well, hang on a minute, whoa, you know, and it really depressed me that no one cared. And I saw many people that needed love and care and go, just hang on, you know, you're being crazy. This could go in a second. You know, the fame could be gone within a second and nobody will remember. And
Right.
it really annoys me that no one ever says this when people go into soap operas, you know, because the fame goes within a second and then not remembered. But yes, the other side you were saying about, you know, and yes, I did try and hide all that. But you know, what I did learn, and you know, we all learn lessons, don't we? That actually, you know, particularly having been in Corrie, although, you know, all the other things I've done, I was lucky I went straight into another job, and, you know, and then I went straight into loose. But what the lesson was is nothing is sacred. No one cares. No one bothers. This is it. This is where the buck stops. Look after this because no one cares.
That's right.
And the trade-off of the fact that you had been in those soaps, because I was your agent at that time, and I would go down to Leicester Square. It's what we used to do in the old days, Danniella, remember? And you'd get the papers and you'd get the early editions 5, 6 o'clock, because the phone calls would come in on the Friday and you'd be dreading it. And when they did write about your financial situation, which was to try and get you out of your marriage, they used words like frittered away, wasteful, and they ripped you to pieces, when really you were a victim of a bad marriage, a situation that was out of your control. You'd worked hard, you'd done everything you could, and they ridiculed you.
Yes, and the other thing I'll just bring into that as well, when I eventually left Coronation Street, the press that had done all sorts of, you know, deals, and I was everywhere, I was all over everywhere, came to me and offered me a lot. I mean, I'm talking a major amount of money for me to tell the story of what had happened to me, Brian and everything. And I said, no. And everybody went, what? Take the money. And I said, no, I'm not going to be the person. I'm not jumping on any bandwagon. And wherever I work after this, I don't want people to think, oh, did you see what she did? Oh, she sold that. And so I didn't jump on the bandwagon that had already been put on by people going, you know, sacked everywhere. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. And to this day, although it was a lot of money, I am actually pleased I didn't do it, because I think it was the right decision not to do that. So it's horses for courses, isn't it, in this business, as we all know. We play the game, we do what we think we're doing right, bam, something happens to you. And all you could, I mean, the pain and the hurt was terrible. And I still get twingers, you know, but at the end of the day, we know the game, don't we, girls?
Melanie called me the God, because yes, I mean, that's very much in my nature, and especially where I come from and everything. It's like you don't tell stories, and I never wanted to. I would never, you know, do any press about anything, or you know, what happened to me. And I mean, I have spoken about it now, all these years later, over 20 years later now, and actually it's cathartic for me, and I'm glad I'm talking about it now, because it's important. And I do, you know, I do matter, and so, you know, people in soaps do matter, and it's wonderful. And I've been able to do that because I am supported now, you know, with around me. But at the time, yeah, I would never sell any stories. But the ironic thing is, it would have helped you to get you out of your situation if you'd have sold it. But you just are not like that. You're not that kind of people, you know. You can't play their game that way. But it, as I say, again, the ruthlessness is on the other side.
Yeah, and also, sorry, they also, it doesn't matter if you know, you agree you're not going to sell something. If you give a few quotes, they'll make that whole story look like you sold it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's where you can't come back from. And it's like,
no,
damn, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. A good friend of mine, Michael Greco, gave a few quotes when he was sacked playing Beppe DeMarco, as you well know, Carol, and he never worked again. Well, he went into the state theatre and stuff, but he never went really big on, done another big TV thing again. It's the kiss of death. It can be the kiss of death for people. And actually sitting here talking on here with you girls, it's like, it's great, because it's like a kind of therapy where we can all say that we're all like, we've all been through it, because we all meet up at awards and different things and events, but we'd never get to talk like this. And it's wonderful, and it gives people at home an insight of the reality, really.
And before they take to their keyboards, and before they say those things, and before they print those things, here you are, the real women behind those characters, mothers, daughters, sisters, normal women, and they don't take that into account. And in the book, we explore what happens to those layers of the human side of you that the press and the media and the bosses just leave to be attacked wildly with nobody there. And I think, if anything, like what I've loved about this whole process, I mean, I've loved working with you all individually. Such amazing memories. Sherrie and I go back 27 years. I mean, how we've never aged, I don't know. And you know, I've loved bringing Carol back into the limelight where she deserved to be when she killed it in Thunder, and everybody knows Danniella and mine story. And I feel that, like, if anybody has tried to do their bit to right the wrongs of soap, I feel that it was probably me. I built an agency around women that I felt had been injured by the process, that I felt were unjustly treated, and that most importantly, I thought were bloody good at what you do, and are amazing actresses and amazing women, and that it was just not acceptable to be treated like that. So I think I built, and obviously now I'm writing, and now they say write about what you know, and that's what I'm doing, but I was in those toxic meetings, and I remember thinking, one day, mate, just you wait, we will come back. And here we are, and here we are now.
And here it is. Here it is.
Here we are. We're having praise
en masse.
We're having best-selling books.
There it is.
And we're going to use this success to make our own programs, stream our own programs, go straight to the audience. Because as we know, what's the biggest thing that most soap bosses are? Snobs. They don't want the actual audience to get what the audience wants. They want what they want them to want. And, you know, if you go, you know, Danniella, if you were difficult on set, there are ways to deal with it. You take time out, you get that person help, you hold the role. The point is, the country knows that's your role. It's never worked with anyone else. And when you go back and you do it, you kill it. It's like in Coronation Street, the acting of your character, Maureen, is still to this day an absolute joke. You watch those episodes and you go, this is a matriarchal character that owns a corner shop, a flat above it, a house across the road, she's in 2 marriages, and they send her off to live with a builder in Germany. I mean, it's
I know.
insult to the audience. And Carol, you came in and gave an electrifying performance of a sexually active woman in her 40s, and was given dialogue that I specifically remember to Grant, the character, not obviously Ross the actor, but to Grant, where he was 6 years younger than you were, and your dialogue was, why would you want me? My body's not what it was. And I remember watching that at home as a younger woman, because I'm in my 40s now, and I was in my 20s then, and knowing that it was wrong. And I remember seeing you being hung out to dry in the press, Danniella, and knowing it was wrong. And I remember seeing you fired, Sherrie, from that role. That's the one role that you've basically been fired from by someone's personal choice, and knowing it was wrong. You've all gone on to have successes that have proved people wrong. But still, I think my own mantra was a little bit of justice for people that needed it. And I'm proud that I've had a chance to work with you all and to call you friends, you know, forever. We'll be friends forever. And for me, that's what I'm grateful of, and that they know who they are. Anyone that's in this book that is portrayed as not a nice person, we know they exist.
Oh yeah, we do.
and we're coming for you. I'm going to wrap this first ever edition of Girl Talk up and thank everybody that has watched this. And I think that hopefully you will have learned quite a few things that maybe we needed to get off our chests, and you might understand a little bit more about why a book like this is proving so popular, but also more layers to these women that you think you know that maybe you didn't know before. So if we could have a word of advice for anyone that was going to, 1, read the book, 2, ever be in a soap opera, what would it be? Let's start with Carol.
Oh, word of advice. It's difficult because I didn't handle it very well. So I would say just try to be strong and believe in yourself. You will be battered because it's somebody else is controlling your life, but hang on to who you are and how great you are as a person. Don't let it strip you of everything, and you'll survive. We will survive. Ruthless Women, this book is just amazing. There's so many revelations in here, and they're so true. You probably won't think they could possibly happen, but believe me, we are here as testament that they did and they do, and that's why it's so fantastic. And you'll just be shocked, surprised. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you want to cry sometimes. And just like a soap, just like our lives.
Danniella.
For me, I have to say, read the book. Read it once, read it twice, probably read it 3 times, because there are bits you'll miss and bits that you will, you'll have skipped over, that, when you do end up getting on a good show and a soap that you will find relevant and prevalent to you. And just know that if you've not got thick enough skin, this industry is just not going to be for you. But if you think you have, come and have a go. If you think you're hard enough, that's my advice.
And last but never least, Sherrie Hewson.
Well, in this book, it'll tell you all you need to know. It's like, I think everything that I went through is played out in this. So read it, know if you can handle it. And I always say to people who are going to soaps, go in, enjoy every second, don't expect anything. And if you're gone in a minute, it doesn't matter, because you had the best time of your life when you were there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to round up one last question. Do you regret ever joining those soaps?
Nope. Not at all.
I don't know. I'm still not sure. It's my life, so that's my life story, and I did. Life switch tapestry. Maybe it might have been better if I wasn't in it. I don't know, because it's a ruthless world, and I wasn't prepared for it at that time.
Sherrie?
I don't regret anything. You know, it is what it is. I had the best of times. It was devastating what happened to me, but do you know what? I had the best of times, and I can't ever look back and go, oh God, if only I hadn't done that, because it was just fabulous. Never regret anything. Regrets are futile.
Well, from us, it's goodbye, and we are not going anywhere. That was the very first ever edition of Girl Talk, and I have got to say I absolutely loved it. I would never have believed in a million years that I would be hosting a show where we're going to be talking about all sorts of fascinating things. Right now we are of course focusing on Ruthless Women, just because it's still out and it is still doing so well, and for that I'm so grateful. I just want to tell you, everybody that's reading it and leaving me messages, I do read them all and I'm so thrilled. But I am also excited to tell you that Girl Talk will return with a different panel every week, and we'll be talking about all sorts of things, and it won't be in the same format as book promotion. So fasten your seatbelts, get ready for a bumpy ride.